Okay, so this is Adele. Take 2. It's early morning, and I've discovered something really interesting. Good morning, by the way. I'm still tinkering with my old laptop, and I'm gonna set it to the complete, yeah, like so. We used to have a thing where our old computers were too old and our new computers were new fast, and that we couldn't play our Windows 98 games or MS-DOS games properly on the newer machines. Windows XP sort of did away with DOS backwards compatibility, and I think that Linux and Windows XP not being that compatible, that actually caused programs like Box and DOSBox to come into being. DOSBox is an example of a program that provides a completely emulated DOS experience and environment. It used to be able to only run DOS, but there have been newer versions of DOSBox that allow the system to actually run Windows 95 and 98 to some extent, even Voodoo 3D hardware acceleration. DOSBox-X is an excellent version of that. I'll show you that in a bit. If you want to have a more complete emulation, you would have to resort to BOS, but that really sort of died out, I think. But it really provided a lot of the how do you say that, the building bricks and inspiration for all these newer apps to come into being. Playing Windows on Linux, and now I'll turn into the full desktop. Playing games, DOS games on this Linux machine only is possible with DOSBox, to some extent 86box, which is actually an enhancement or a continuation of PCEm, but slower. It does support newer and more hardware, up to Pentium 2, I believe, or Pentium 3, Pentium 2. But you really need a very fast machine because the entire PC is emulated in a single thread. The graphics are actually emulated in other threads, but basically you really need a beefy system with a huge, fast CPU in order to have it somewhat fast enough that it's actually usable. Play on Linux is more or less an API that allows the native Windows apps to run on the CPU with the graphics card, but it's not as compatible as you would like it to be. Most often it's the more modern games that you can run on XP or above. But it's excellent. Wine is the basis of that. Play on Linux is a nice front end to that. Basically what Play on Linux does is similar to what if we run the Amiga, this one. Basically Play on Linux is something similar to what Shapeshifter does on Amiga OS, because what it does is actually run Mac OS on the hardware, with Shapeshifter being this translation layer. And basically Mac OS actually runs on the processor of the Amiga. And sadly it doesn't do 68060, but it does 68040. And you can have a very decent experience running Mac OS on Amiga. Actually, Mac emulation on Amiga may actually be faster on PC emulated than if you run a bare metal emulator. Okay, so for a long time, virtual machines, which is actually the fastest hardware, virtual machines is actually the fastest way to run virtual machines because it pretty much runs directly on the hardware. Virtual machines like VirtualBox, VMware, they did support 3D hardware acceleration on Windows 98 for a time. Then it moved up to Windows XP, and they pretty much are geared towards providing a virtualized PC, virtualized system, which is more or less current. So as time went on, these machines, they were geared more towards emulating or virtualizing the more modern hardware. And as they do not emulate, they sort of dropped support for 3D hardware acceleration on older Windows platforms like Windows 98 virtualized within, a Windows machine or a Linux machine. Now, a recent, very interesting, very interesting bookmarks. Yeah, this is prepared very, very well. Last time I didn't hook up my phone yet because I'm doing this out in the sticks, all on cell phone. This JHRobotics has created soft GPU, and soft GPU actually supports software and hardware accelerated GPU for Windows 98 virtual machines, and this is actually very new. QEMU had the best chances of actually providing that, but again, a lot of these 3D hardware accelerated APIs that were could be used, they didn't support the older 3D hardware that Windows 98 and Windows 9X uses. But this provides a very nice way to have 3D hardware acceleration back on Windows 9X. And what it does, it consists of 4 to 6 projects. My 6 projects, so it was 4, but now it's like 6. 3D effects, hardware abstraction layer, OpenGlide, Wine 3D, Direct 3D, Mesa 3D, and Virtual Display. These projects all make it possible to have hardware accelerated graphics on Windows 9X on various virtualized machines, Box, VMware, and Oracle VirtualBox. And here you can actually see that the hypervisor used Oracle VirtualBox, VMware, QEMU, and I'm using 6.1 on my machine. And you can have 3 options for graphics card if you select to emulate a Windows 9X machine. This one, it wants to default to, and it doesn't support hardware 3D acceleration, but you can actually select this or this, and I'm actually using this, and it actually supports the entire range of hardware accelerated graphics. The thing is, this is also selectable, but if you do and you tick the box 3D hardware acceleration, VirtualBox will actually complain of an illegal setting and revert back to this. And then you have software acceleration, which is actually quite a fair bit slower, but also quite compatible. At least you have access to 3D accelerated graphics, which otherwise would just not work at all. The big bugging thing, if you use Windows 98 on VirtualBox, Soundblaster 16 sort of is out of the picture. You have to use AC97, which is a Realtek audio driver that really isn't hardware compatible with the bare bones DOS that runs underneath Windows 98. Windows 95, I believe Soundblaster 16 is possible because it's a slightly different version of Windows on the MS-DOS 7, I believe, and you can use the DOS-based detection methods for this Soundblaster 16 because it's a plug-and-play card that's being emulated, and it is a PCI card. I believe it's closely related to a Soundblaster 16 AWE. It's sort of recognized if you try to install the Soundblaster drivers on Windows 98, but it really doesn't work, or just very buggily. If you select to install AC97 Realtek, you'll be able to use the Soundblaster part of the things under Windows 98 for DOS games, for digitized sounds, but MIDI or the FM sound is not supported, but you can use general MIDI to play the games. On VMware Workstation, actually the Soundblaster PCI 128 is supported, and QEMU has the same sort of emulated stuff. Well, this page actually tells you what to do, so I'm not going to explain it all here. I'm just going to refer to this page. What is possible is that your machine is too fast for Windows 98 to run, and that actually happened on the generation of AMD K62, I believe. Yeah, on K62 machines already, they became too fast for Windows 98 to boot or run without any issues. So what has been done is actually something to patch certain files so that Windows 98 becomes compatible with these newer faster machines. There's also another patch that allows more than 256 or more than 1 gigabyte of memory to be used on Windows 98, 95. Yeah, you can do that after the install, because you can go through the install without patching the Windows yet, but the moment it boots for the first time for real, because the installer looks like Windows, is a sort of Windows subset, but doesn't run in the protected mode. The moment it goes into protected mode, then it just stalls. There's a bootable drive image, disk image that you can use, or you can actually boot from that and then patch the install, or you can actually use this to patch the installer files and install Windows 98 or Windows 9X with the patched files, and you don't have to patch afterwards. It's all explained within these apps. There's all sorts of links towards there's also drivers for these Soundblaster sound things. It's not perfect yet because what happens is that there are bugs, of course. It's very recent, this. And I was amazed. There's some YouTube videos that show you this in action, the soft CPU and the virtual CPU and GPU, performance differences, how to set up the hypervisor specifically. I'll show you mine. This is the installer of the soft GPU ISO that has been created. It does include a very interesting way to run this. DX flags, certain bugs arrived, so you have to select certain demarks. It's also explained. It's very early still, so yeah. There's also a version for newer versions of Windows 10 and above, so for the more modern GPUs and operating systems. So, and it actually goes into screenshots and shows you how to set it all up. And there's also test applications that tests the OpenGL. You can use DirectX diagnostics to check whether or not the system is running properly or the files are running properly. If you do wanna use DirectX, what I can tell you is that what is opted is that you end up with DirectX 9C. But if you want to use or check out older 3D Mark applications, it's actually advised that after installing Windows 98, it comes with DirectX 6, the second edition. Grab a hold of DirectX 7, install that. Grab a hold of DirectX 8, install that, and then proceed to install DirectX 9, because it'll allow you to have all these 3D marks available and have them run. I'll show you them running on my systems. Now there's known bugs, of course, but it's continually being developed. So what they also advise you to turn off DMA for the hardware access. That is actually, if you run it on a modern machine, it's actually a lot faster than regular. So turning that off won't really affect performance that much. Actually, it does a lot better with the virtualization. So turn that off, and yeah, here it shows you what type of stuff is replaced. Just the DirectX draw bits are replaced. Those are the wine things that are replaced, and the MESA things are replaced. So by smartly replacing hardware accelerated 3D stuff into the OS, it actually makes 3D hardware acceleration possible on these Windows 9X machines again. So that is actually quite interesting. Now I'll quickly show you my VirtualBox setup. So I installed Windows 98 second edition. I just selected create new machine, Windows 98, and I created a 2 GB partition, normal partition, and not the expanding partition. And I actually also imported my VHDs that I use for my Mister. I thought about booting into this and then changing that around, but I opted to go for a new install, but used the files that were on these. And basically there's a ton of MS-DOS games, but also some Windows installs, Windows games. So I could have access to those. So I imported those, and there's an optical drive that I use. And I use a program called, and for Windows it's much easier, but ISOmaster. ISOmaster allows you to open up an ISO, and I have this Exchange ISO, and you can actually drag and drop files into that. This is a folder on my machine, and this is actually within the ISO, and you can delete and remove stuff, and you can add stuff. On Windows you can just say, pop to a directory and say create ISO, but on Linux it's a bit more convoluted. Mounting VHDs and images of these virtual machines is possible, but writing them, they're mounted read-only, so writing into them is not possible. So yeah, pulse audio, so I use the AC97. It is possible to select Soundblaster 16 or Intel HD audio, but that's for newer machines, and this doesn't want to work properly with Windows 98. So it's AC97. PC, the Ethernet PC Fast, it's a NAT, it works. You can actually install USB drivers on it as well. So yeah, Phil's hardware, Phil's computer site is a very and Vogons are very good sites to get more information on running this older hardware. And oh yeah, what's also important is that you select the right video driver, dus the VMSVGA in this case. Now it's not perfect because if you go full screen and you select to use a oh yeah, it works. This is cool. I hope it's picked up properly through the microphone. But if you use a prompt and you go full screen, let me see. There it goes. Have to wait a bit. It's not stretched. You can stretch it if you select this, but then it's running in the window again. But yeah, on my screen, which is 1300 something by whatever, if you select 1280 by 720, all the extra bits on top and the bottom, if you go into this sort of full screen windowed mode, you can get by with more or less seeing the entire screen, perhaps a bit squashed, but yeah, it works actually really well. Ethernet is supported. You can go online and search, but of course these newer, you can say soft GPU, and then it'll come up with JHRobotics and Vogons. There was so that's actually quite recent, but yeah, if you go to Vogons, the encryption and the keys and stuff, there's not support for those newer communication forms. So basically these older browsers are only usable when you go to something like Wayback Engine or something, you know, or have this specific forwarder that proxy server that allows you to browse the web as if it was 1999 or something like that. There are options for that. But for FTP sharing or Windows file sharing, you can do that. You can actually have a Samba server and transfer files like that. The machine is pretty much closed off because it's not possible to have the guest editions running or installing those on this type of Windows, because the platform has evolved that much that shared folders on the host system or drag and drop files from the host to the desktop of the virtual machine, and those seamless operations aren't possible anymore. So it's a bit more convoluted getting the files into the virtual machines, but yeah, so 7-zip, Total Commander, Media Player, Winamp, of course. Winamp, that really whips the llama's ass. Let me see if I can play that. No, let me see. Play, file, demo. Winamp, it really whips the llama's ass. And Elise will probably go insane, but I use this to show you some of the plugins. So the amazing plugins that we used to have, they actually work. Really whips the llama's ass. Who is born with a voice like that? It's the llama's ass. Let me see. There's this. No, this one. Start. So that's a, there's all sorts of, wavelets or plugins to have a better experience than the standard bars. But yeah, I mean, playing, I mean, imagine running Napster, downloading MP3s and playing them on Winamp. That's how we rolled instead of Deezer and all these other streaming services. I'll show you Space Cadet Pinball real quick. Elise is taking root now. Now this came with Windows XP, and that really made it a winner in my book. I mean, a Windows that comes with a built-in pinball, that's a winner in my book. But yeah, Windows 98 is actually not that bad for MS-DOS games. And I'll show you that even though the this AC97 implementation, oh yeah, let's go to settings, control panel, and show you the system. Oh yeah, and then it actually shows the CPU that's running on Windows 98. It's actually the CPU that's on this system, the i5-5200U. But if you go to Device Manager, this is the Soundblaster, which isn't properly recognized. The VMware SVJ2 PCI adapter, but the sound actually is this Realtek AC97 audio for Intel audio controller and the Soundblaster emulation. If you install the files that are on the website that I just showed you, you'll be able to run games that need Soundblaster, but you need to select General MIDI as the sound device, and the FX device, the music device, and the FX device can be the Soundblaster. General MIDI, and the Soundblaster is 220, 5, and 1. You have to use the Set Blaster environment on Windows, on DOS, to be able to run it. It won't run these games if you go to the bare DOS underneath. I don't think it'll work, but I may give it a try. So save parameters and launch Heretic. So this is the general MIDI, and this really is as fast as it will run. Now it's not perfect because this runs great, but for some reason Doom really is a dog. But it may be down to the sound not being properly configured. Let's check out Doom. Doom, and then the setup for Doom. So choose music card. And that would be General MIDI. Sound effects card Soundblaster. Why not? Save parameters and run Doom, launch Doom. So this really runs like a dog, but it could be down to the fact that there's way too many digital sounds being emulated. So if we run setup and go to the sound effects card, Soundblaster, and only like have 4 sounds to mix, it still runs like a dog. So It's really weird why it won't run smoother. Well, there is a version. There is a version of Doom on here, Fast Doom, that allows you to run it. Supposedly allows you to run it on slower machines, but for some reason it really hangs the machine. So it's not perfect, it still hangs. So let's boot it again, and it's probably gonna complain about not having been shut down properly. Oh no, it didn't. Okay. Oh yeah, it does. So you have this check scan disk bit. You saw stuff like that actually appearing in macOS also. These, whoops. I'm sorry for Elise because she really is getting a lot of noises her way. Champ games. Champ games will probably not run because they want to detect the sound card, but let's see. Unable to initialize sound card. So, and illegal option. So if you want to use the champ games on this, it doesn't work. Let's go into the MS-DOS mode. And it may not want to go into that mode because of the, there it goes. And it rebooted. So let's go to, and it may actually, it may actually be down to my, let me see, shut down. It may actually be due to me doing something to the AutoExec batch, that it actually goes back into Windows. Yes, that actually is the case. So let's repair this live. Because I was actually trying to set this up with various memory configurations, you know, the multiple configuration MS-DOS boot, because I figured this would be excellent for running these high-end MS-DOS games. Oh. We have been sitting across each other in our study with this sound and this reboot thing going on all over the time with me rebooting one of my systems, because rebooting is something that happens a lot. But I turned off the GUI, because if you use Tweak UI, you can actually make Windows 98 boot into MS-DOS and not into let's do it with this, because what I did was use the menu system, and these these memory addresses needed to be put in on the MiSTer. If you use Windows 98 or Windows 95 on MiSTer and you want to use this, the EM386, you really have to select this, otherwise it'll not boot. It's just the way the BIOS is set up. I imported those so I could have the best DOS configuration, but running bare DOS, well, let's see what happens if we try to exit DOS when we are allowed to, because then these AutoExec and config files are used. So what I do is go to Win, and I actually give the command Win. So, and that was necessary for the system to actually go into Windows automatically. But now I have to restart, and then I can go to back into MS-DOS, and let's see if I can run Heretic with the sound enabled. And it probably won't work, or it may be that the hardware, after booting into Windows 98 and exiting that, may actually retain some settings in some miraculous way, restarting to MS-DOS mode. But I don't think it'll work. And this is also a big thing if you have access to real hardware. It's not always possible to have a Soundblaster on these new machines because they don't have ISO slots. Well, you can actually hack in an ISO slot on a PCI. I've seen someone do it, but that's convoluted. And let's see, Heretic. And just let's see if it'll run. No, so there's no sound. I mean, it works, but there's no sound. And that's because the Soundblaster emulation only works with within the Windows environment. It's a protected mode thing. Well, there have been people working around that by providing a protected mode driver. Within DOS with an expanded memory unit and stuff to be able to run these hardware, these PCI audio devices still. But yeah, and if you type exit, you go back into Windows. So you can actually use Windows like this for software that is not compatible with the virtualized Windows environment or the virtualized DOS environment within Windows. It can have its own config and auto-exec batch files and have all sorts of drivers loaded and stuff. So yeah, it's actually quite versatile, Windows 98, for running old MS-DOS based games, and also of course Windows games. I believe there's a Quake 98 or a Quake 95, and then I'll just go to the let me see, Quake and say Quake 95 launch or Quake 95 batch. Yeah. So this, and I have to set the files yet again. Options, controls, no, controls. And that was console controls. So walk forward, W, back pedal, S, strafe. So that's the way to play a first-person shooter game. But this actually is a bit fast now. It's too fast, so you probably have to do some sort of VSync thing, because yeah, this is really fast. Well, I mean, if you want to speed run Quake, you really can speed run Quake if you want. I mean, you go through your ammo rather quickly, and then you have to bloody exit. Whoops, and then you die. Okay, well, I made a whole video on showing this and comparing it to PCEm, and also comparing it to DOSBox. So enjoy the video. It's rather long. It doesn't have any commentary, but it'll be comprehensive enough. I'll show you the benchmarks with the hardware acceleration, just the demos, not the figures, but just how it works. Oh yeah, and using one of these webcams on a laptop. Yeah, and if you wear glasses, you always get this shiny thing. You have to look like this. Anyways, yeah, let's enjoy the video and see you in a bit. So here you can actually see that I didn't opt out of the DMA access to the hard drive activity in this bit of the video, so you can actually experience what the DMA HD polling does to the sound output, especially as sound is intermittently briefly stopped here, and that's because of that DMA polling. And it's obvious when the hard drive is accessed more like these following 3D Mark demos, and it's less pronounced in software that doesn't stream off a lot of data in the drive later on in the video. This can be completely remedied by opting out of the DMA HD access from within Device Manager, and that's shown in the soft GPU website.